Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion on this glorious day in February. I don't usually do these at night, but I was just moved to the fires crackling. Just picture it. So peaceful. Little Giovanni the Golden Retriever's right here, heading into Valentine's Day soon. And I just was inspired. I know I'm on a Richard Carlson jag. I'm starting to get on a Joe Dispenza jag. All my great thinkers. It'd be so wild to have them all in one room and I don't know, have like a potluck dinner or something. I think that would be such a wonderful way to spend an evening with all these, just in tune authentics would just be so freaking cool. So, Richard Carlson, he writes the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff books, of which I own, I think, four. He was talking about seeing the glass is already broken. And that's a wild perspective because when I think of that, like right away, and he says in parentheses and everything else too. So see the glass already broken, parentheses and everything else too. Right away, you think negatively, right? Like, why are you picturing that glass broken? But then he said, this is a Buddhist teaching that I learned over 20 years ago. It has provided me and again with greatly needed perspective to guide me toward my goal of a more accepting self. And this he's got a huge positive spin on this. And actually, when I first opened this up today, it brought me to um, the I believe it's Japanese tradition of kintsugi, and where when pottery breaks, and I'm paraphrasing. I didn't even plan this part. Actually, I didn't plan any of it. Just kind of came to me. They fill it with like a gold type of kind of like glue, like to piece together the pottery and the kintsugi. So how they look at it, the broken pottery pieced together with this gold stuff that fills the cracks, right, is even more beautiful than the pottery was before. I mean, how cool is that? Metaphorically speaking, if we sort of transfer this to somebody who survived trauma and they're feeling just broken and just they feel like, again, metaphorically, like in pieces, right? And then being glued together with gold and just beautiful, beautiful filling, so that person comes out on top stronger and more beautiful than they were before. I mean, I really like this. And so Richard says the essence of this teaching is that all of life is in a constant stage of change. Everything has a beginning and everything has an end. Every tree begins with a seed and will eventually transform back into earth. Every rock is formed, every rock will vanish. In our modern world, this means that every car, every machine, every piece of clothing is created, sorry, and all will wear out and crumble. I lost my train here. It's only a matter of when. Let's say that last sentence again. In our modern world, this means that every car, every machine, every piece of clothing is created and all will wear out and crumble. It's only a matter of when. When we look at that, I mean, he's talking about looking at everything is broken and things like that. It really, for me, it helps me to just take a deep breath, spiritually speaking, and just think of it can be so easy for us to get attached to stuff, just putting so much, oh, I got to get this and I got to get that present for somebody. I really want this. I want that. And when we realize in the end, it makes no diff. Okay. I think for me, it's a little easier to kind of drop that. He says our bodies are born and they will die. We also don't think about that, do we? We get so wrapped up, myself included. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in these like ridiculous details that just don't matter and take us away from the precious moment, precious present moment. And then he says a glass is created and eventually it will break. So when I first saw this title, thinking, "Ooh, that sounds negative." I mean, I knew it wasn't because I'm very aware of Richard Carlson, and he's an optimist for sure. It's amazing how and of course Wayne Dyer, another one of my great thinker friends, says when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? So when we take on this new perspective of nothing's really, material stuff, they're not. It sounds kind of silly to say immortal, but they're not going to last forever, right? And how things can also be even more beautiful when they're broken. I had to throw that in there because I really love that Japanese tradition of kintsugi. And so I guess, similar to what I was just saying, there's Richard talks about there being like a peace of mind in this Buddhist teaching because when you sort of are aware of or even expect something to break, there's obviously no disappointment, or say minimal disappointment because it's not a shocker, and when I first read this earlier, I thought of I don't wouldn't say I have a wine glass collection because it's not very big, and after a while, I actually get rid of some because our cabinets are only so big, and I'm a simplifier, so I keep my favorite ones as they age out. I get new ones, but they're different. I like that they don't match, and so when I try to think of, I've right currently got a couple of really pretty winter, like they're large and winter, like the winter scene is kind of etched in them. One of my women friends gave them to me, and they've got moose. They match with northern Vermont, evergreen trees, and it's just this etching in the glass, and they're so pretty. And I'm thinking of with reading this, like when I think of, if I try to think of those, eventually those will break. It helps you to enjoy them now. When my women friends are over and we pour some red wine in there, and just because wine glasses break all the time around here. It's just how it is, especially if you got tile floors. There's no chance. You got a rug, maybe, but not. We've got hardwood and tile, so there's no chance if you drop one. And then he says, you're not as surprised or disappointed when it breaks. Instead of becoming immobilized when something's destroyed, you feel grateful for the time that you had with it. And I know at a fabulous 58, and I'm not super attached to material things, but sometimes I am. And I even thought, thank goodness I still have it. My grandmother's probably my most valuable material possession, I guess, other than my wedding ring, which is attached to my finger. But I don't have a ton of jewelry either. My grandmother gave me her engagement stone, and she had it put into a gold little, kind of looks like a cross, but I think it's more like I don't know, it's cross looking, but it's not actually a cross, but it's gold. And really, I'm very attached to that because I miss her. So obviously, it's the emotion attached to my grandmother on this material thing. And my grandmother herself would say, "Oh, honey, it's a material thing, even though it's very beautiful. It reminds me of her, but it broke one day." And I'm so grateful that I felt it shimmy into my shirt because if I didn't have that sensation of the shimmy, it actually landed in my bra, to be truthful. And I was like, "Whoa, what's that?" And I was like, "Oh my God," I just did this gratitude immediately because I would have been so incredibly sad if I lost that. And then I had this awareness of what my grandmother would have said. Like I just told you, she said, "Honey, I know it's my engagement ring and it's pretty, but it's a material thing. It's okay. It's not worth the tears." She would have said that herself. And it kind of helped me, even though thankfully it was caught, and I then kept it in this little bag in my drawer. That eventually, if I do lose it, and I hopefully not, but that's right. It's the whole dust to dust thing, and I've enjoyed it for so long, and it has reminded me of my grandmother for so long. And sometimes I would just try to hold it if I was taking a test or on a phone call. It was nerve wracking or something. And even though it's a material thing, the emotional attachment to her memory was what I really have gotten out of it. And that's really what's important, is just the meaning. The meaning is all that remains, right? And so Richard said the easiest place to start is with the simple things. A glass of water, for example. Pull out your favorite drinking glass. When I read this earlier, like, "Ooh, I'm going to use this one." And when he said this sentence, he said, "Take a moment," and my brain went, I thought he was going to say, "Take your favorite drinking glass and throw it against the tile floor," and just to kind of get used to this idea. But that's not what he says. He says, "Take a moment to look at it and appreciate its beauty and all it does for you." Now imagine that same glass is already broken, shattered all over the floor. Try to maintain the perspective that in time everything disintegrates and returns to its initial form. I mean, yeah, it's just an interesting perspective, is what it is. So, I mean, obviously, nobody wants, like with me, with my beautiful glasses that I think Stace got for my birthday. Actually, my girlfriend Stace, they're just so pretty, and she knows how much I love the North and skiing, and and that again, that's what it is. Like they're not just any wine glasses. They weren't wine glasses with something I don't care about. The wine glasses that match the house, match my personality, match my love of winter, and that's why I think we get so sad. It's because of, but the meaning continues. So he says this philosophy is not a prescription for becoming passive or apathetic, but for making peace with the way things are. When your drinking glass does break, this philosophy also helps you to maintain your perspective. Rather than thinking, "Oh my God," you find yourself thinking, "Ah, there it goes." Um, or like I was just saying about the glasses that my friend Stace gave me, just being so, not that I'm saying I'd be happy if they broke. Of course I'm not happy if they broke. But even just doing this podcast at this exact minute, because my two beautiful wine glasses are up in the cabinet, and I mean their artwork, they're just so gorgeous. I right now just feeling the meaning of her. I feel like she's sitting on the couch with me right now, which she is not. But that's what we take with us, right? So then he says, play with this awareness, and you'll find yourself not only keeping your cool, but appreciating life as never before. I really, really like that. So this awareness of things already being broken, the whole dust to dust thing, and then the little kintsugi thing I threw in there too. Because if you could choose, it wouldn't work as well with a wine glass, obviously, but with if you had something handmade by one of your kids when they were little or something and it broke from all these years or whatever like that, the idea that you can excuse me the idea that you can you know put it back together, because ceramic's different. It breaks in like larger pieces than glass does, right? Glass is like shrapnel when it hits the tile floor, but the idea that the broken item, bowl or whatever it is, could even be more beautiful, I think is also cool. So that's it. Nice new perspective. And this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful, now very dark, northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.